Adonis Stevenson versus Tony Bellew. Not a bad fight. Not a bad fight. I think that Tony Bellew brings something a little different to the table in terms of the opponents that Adonis Stevenson has faced before. In his last fight against Tavoris Cloud, a lot of people were impressed. A lot of people have taken a long time, you know, similar to Tim Bradley, although not as extreme as the Bradley case, because Bradley had literally fought everyone and beat everyone apart from Pacquiao at 140, and when he moved up to 147, but still wasn't getting no credit. Now, Adonis Stevenson hadn't really beaten anyone until he stepped in the ring with Chad Dawson, but I had seen a lot of potential and a lot of talent in him before then, which a lot of people seem to completely dismiss and not recognize. So, you know, his coming out party really was the Tavoris Cloud fight, because even after the Chad Dawson fight, there was a lot of people very, very skeptical. And a lot of people were picking Tavoris Cloud to beat Adonis Stevenson. They weren't convinced by him. They thought he was just some mindless slugger and he didn't have any boxing skills. But he always had boxing skills. If you go back to the Don George fight, go watch that. That was several years ago. He showed he had boxing skills, or a couple years ago anyway. So here against Tony Bellew, people are expecting Bellew to get destroyed. You know, it's funny. Boxing fans never seem to think about things deeply enough. I'm not saying all boxing fans, but the majority of boxing fans never seem to think about stuff deeply enough. They don't seem to analyze it deeply enough. And this fight right here with Tony Bellew, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think Adonis Stevenson is going to win. Yeah, I do think he's going to win. But as I said, Tony Bellew brings something different to the table, which Stevenson has never really faced before. For one, Tony Bellew is a very big light heavyweight. He's much bigger than Adonis Stevenson. He's a very, very big light heavyweight. Tony Bellew is like 6'2", 6'2 and a half. He's a big guy. As an amateur, he fought as a heavyweight. Yeah. So he's coming down probably from close to 200 pounds to get down to 175 pounds. He's a big guy. Obviously a tall guy. If you saw the face-to-face at a press conference with Bellew and Stevenson, the height difference is huge. Stevenson's 5'11", and he really looked a hell of a lot shorter than Tony Bellew. So it's going to be something a little different, a little bit of a different dynamic, because when you're having to punch up at an opponent, especially when you're not used to, especially when your style is more tailored to fighting people your own kind of height, having to punch up can be a little bit of a problem. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure the arm length of these two fighters, but I think Stevenson still probably has longer arms than Tony Bellew, so he may well still be able to control things from the outside. But Bellew, one thing I can say about Tony Bellew is that he has heart. This guy is not going to go over to Canada and freeze. He's not going to, you know, have a crisis of confidence or anything like that. He's going to go over there fully confident. He's going to go over there for war. And Stevenson is pretty much going to have to nail him to the canvas to knock him out. Because Bellew, as long as he's, you know, capable, he will. If he goes down, he will get back up and he will continue to fight. We've seen him in his career go down hard in fights, get back up and fight even harder. He's one of them kind of guys. Tony Bellew is definitely got heart, and he does have some skills. Tony Bellew, he's not a bad boxer. The fights where he's had a few problems, obviously the Isaac Chilemba fights, especially the first fight, he had quite a few problems with Chilemba. Chilemba's very awkward customer, obviously a southpaw, I believe. Yeah, Chilemba is a southpaw, I think. Is he? Or am I? I'm not sure if Chilemba's a southpaw. Please, someone correct me. I can't remember if Chilemba's a southpaw or not. But Tony Bellew did fight a southpaw in his career who did drop him. Again, the guy's name escapes me. He's some UK fighter. I can't remember his name. But he dropped Tony Bellew and he was a southpaw. So I'm going to be going and looking at some Tony Bellew fights against southpaws and really analyzing them some more to better assess what I think is going to happen in this fight. But again, this is a little provisional prediction, and I am taking Adonis Stevenson to win the fight. But, you know, just based on the fact that Tony Bellew can box a little bit himself, well, also the fact that he's tall, and I think he might be able to use that height to his advantage. He might be able to take some of the sting off of Stevenson's punches because, he may make Stevenson punch up higher than he really wants to punch, or he's accustomed to punching. So I know Stevenson spars with heavyweights and stuff like that in the gym, but heavyweights are a lot more slow on their feet than someone like Tony Bellew, who can move around and move in and out of range and, manage to take the sting off punches by moving backwards just enough. So I don't know. I think Stevenson will win, but I wouldn't be surprised if this fight goes late. I wouldn't even be surprised if the fight goes the distance. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the fight goes the distance. Adonis Stevenson, although I do rate him as a puncher, very hard puncher, and he does have decent boxing skills, he's a little bit one-dimensional on the back foot. He tends to do the same thing over and over again. He don't really have that many wrinkles to his game, all right? He obviously outboxed Tavoris Cloud. He kept Cloud in check with that tremendous punching power that he does have. But a pressure fighter, someone who's going to apply pressure in a little bit more educated manner than Tavoris Cloud did, may have more success against Adonis Stevenson. Even though Stevenson looked good, I saw chinks in his armor there in the Tavoris Cloud fight. It's so strange in boxing. It's like boxing fans are impressed by dominant performances, and they never, especially when someone like Stevenson is outboxing Tavoris Cloud, when people didn't expect him to have boxing skills like that. They're impressed by that, and they'll ignore all the flaws. But yet they see him knock out someone in one round, and they're critical. And it's hard to be critical when someone knocks a guy out in one round because he hasn't even shown any of his flaws. But they were more skeptical of Stevenson after the Dawson fight. But now that he's, beat Tavoris Cloud and it took several rounds, like 7 rounds, he showed flaws in there. But yet no one seems to be pointing them out. Yeah. And I've always been an admirer of Stevenson's talent, So it is what it is. But I think a pressure fighter that can, think a bit better and, has a bit more of a cerebral approach than Tavoris Cloud may be able to give Stevenson more than he can handle. I do believe that because Stevenson is a bit one-dimensional. He's a bit one-handed, as we all know. He really favors that left hand, although he can punch with the right hand, especially to the body. But we didn't really see much of that in the Tavoris Cloud fight. It was left hands all night long. So I don't know. I think this is an interesting fight, Stevenson against Tony Bellew. I think it's interesting. I think Stevenson will win, but I can see it going late, maybe even to the cards. Yeah. And maybe Bellew might be able to pull off the upset. I doubt it. It's possible, but I'm going with Stevenson right off the bat. I'm sticking with Stevenson. If Bellew wins, fair play to him. But I think Stevenson will be able to play it long, hit Tony Bellew to the body. I think he'll be able to land that left hand to the body quite well in this fight with Tony Bellew. And if Bellew does go down, if he does get hurt, don't be surprised if it's from a body shot. One of those hard left hands to the body. It could be from a headshot, obviously, but I think Bellew is going to be very cautious not to get caught with that big left hand. He'll be trying to move out of range and use his own jab and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Let me know how you feel about this fight. Drop your comments below. This is Hatman. I'm out.